If you don't vote, you have no right to whine. This week before the national election is one that brings terror to many people. The aftermath of the elections usually has the same effect on people who expect the worst if their party isn't in control. They identify with David in Psalm 55, 4 and 5. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. Is this what you feel like when you look at the choices on the ballot or who won? Do you fear that the wrong people will get into office and destroy our country one way or another? If so, here is how David started off this psalm. Psalm 55:1 says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not yourself from my plea for mercy." Through it all, we must remember that God is in control. He is the one who removes kings and sets them up, as Daniel told us in chapter 2, verse 21. David assures us that God does hear our petitions. He also reminds us what will happen to ungodly leaders. David says in Psalm 55:19, God will give ear and humble them, he who was enthroned from of old, because they do not change and do not fear God. So much for them. But David also calls on us to cast our burdens on God and remember the end of the ungodly politicians. It may not happen in our lives, but in eternity, as David says in Psalm 55:23. But you, O God, will cast them down into the pit of destruction, men of blood and treachery. You may say that this is all good and fine, but I'm living in the here and now. How does all of this help me? We must do what David does at the end of the psalm. He says he will trust in God. Do you trust in God, or do you trust in politicians? If you are looking only to find relief in this world and not for eternity, you will always be disappointed and even in terror. If you aren't trusting in God through Jesus Christ, I'm sorry to say, you are one of those that God will cast down. If you haven't put your trust in Jesus Christ, then you will be with the ungodly rulers and politicians forever. Peace instead of terror can only come through Jesus Christ after you have found salvation in him. If you haven't turned to Jesus, watch my video on the gospel on my profile page or on YouTube. God bless you.